Hey everyone, Margarita here. I'm going to film this episode today on some of the unconventional methods I've had to use. Having to go about the truth about me coming out into the world, dispelling all of the lies and delusions my mother's been telling people about me, the manner in which I've had to go in trying to get my mother apprehended and the top tier level of individuals involved in all of the crimes against me apprehended. Because what's gone on is she was able to control the false narrative for so many decades about me, since I had cut ties at 18 and had no contact with her, no relationship with her, literally for decades, and no contact with any of her family members or friends. So she was able to control the false narrative all along and present things to look a certain way when that's not really what was going on at all, just by running her mouth and talking to all these people. While I have no contact with any of these people, I'm long gone, building my own life, building it from the ground up, building success from the ground up from the time I was a teenager. Since I bought my first home at age 18 and then my second at age 23, here I was just building and building and building, because I also had my first child at 18 and my second at 21. I just kept building and building and building, was always very busy. So there would have never been any time for me to think too deeply into any of these excessive situations I'd be in. These situations which would arise, they'd seem a little extravagant and out of the realm of normal. But I was always very high functioning and healthy, so it got overlooked until my injury became extreme a little over 7 years ago. And then my mother began inserting herself in those situations, trying her best to make sure that I did not receive medical treatment in extreme medical emergency. That and my youngest child as well, who she's never been allowed to have a relationship with, due to the fact that I already figured out, prior to him being born, that something was wrong with her behavior, and she was flashing my kids around town, trying to gain praise for, we didn't have the full picture or the full scope, but there was definitely something behind all of it. And now there's more known today than there was initially. But when he became sick with me, I gave birth while suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning, which we then acquired brain injuries from, and then went on to suffer some more until we both ended up overloading slowly. Mine was a significant overload at the beginning of 2018 once I returned to the source, when I was never supposed to go back there. And he was slowly overloading just with the little bits he was picking up going out and about in the world. So we overloaded around the same time. During that same year, we both had overloaded to the point where we were both near death. And she played a significant role in making sure the two of us did not receive treatment within the medical system. And her intention was for neither one of us to live, at the bottom line of all of it. And I will get more into that in the future videos. I'm just trying to get the majority of the information out currently so everyone understands how it got to where it is today. How so long went by without anyone realizing anything, the truth about anything about me. Because all of these police departments and large agencies have always taken her delusional phone calls and her delusional reports and ran with it and believed everything she's saying to be real, along with Beaumont Hospital, where she was an employee for 45 years, just listening to everything she was saying, preventing treatment in an extreme emergency. We were in an extreme state of suffocation and brain swelling for years on end, day in and day out, with no relief. So yes, her intention was to make sure we did not survive the incident. Like I said, I will get more into that in some videos down the line. I just have to get everything else out first. And part of it is the Munchausen by proxy, where she gains attention in different ways. She gains attention by that being the case. And then she created more problems with the people around me from the background by having access to those individuals, even though she did not have direct access to me and their behaviors during all of that. She gained more attention from people in that manner. Running with the false narrative that I've always had this mental disorder and this drug problem. And then she, with the Munchausen by proxy, creates severe pain and suffering, physical pain and suffering, mental and emotional pain and suffering, drives wedges in between people, triangulates, manipulates, gaslights to an extreme degree. So all of that was going on during all of that time. And because I could not get treatment in the medical system, I had to go about things differently as well. And that's how we ended up patients at the Oxford Center for 6 years, where I spent 165 grand out of pocket to save our lives and get us to where we are today. Now, even though, we're a little over 50% where we need to be, However, we are going to be permanently injured for the rest of our lives, and with the amount of re-injuries, the amount of brain injuries that I have, the permanent damage at a cellular level with both of us and the blood-brain barrier, we're always going to be living modified lives. I have been very sick because we did go some months without treatment once the center had the explosion back in January. So this was all unconventional about how we even got to live, how I even was able to save our lives and afford to pay all of that, because I had all of my life's work behind me at that point, had been working for over 20 years at that point. So that's how we got to survive, totally unconventional on the ways we had to go about this. But yes, we've been unwell lately because we went with no treatment whatsoever, and we can't do that. It is required to keep us alive and functional, and then there was another spill by Ford Motor Company. So yes, we've been very sick. It's been a little harder to film videos because I did begin treatment again a little over 2 weeks ago, daily. So it's jarring itself loose at a cellular level. It's having trouble processing. My chamber doesn't have as strong of a pressure as the one at the center. So that's why my videos are not coming out as quickly. And I'm starting to look a little bit different and sound a little bit different and deliver information differently in these videos because the exposures and the initial overload of carbon monoxide, it doesn't matter what the new exposure is. It can be any gas, chemical, or toxin. They all load up due to everything breaking through the brain, the blood-brain barrier. So all of that has loaded up. It's all being removed at a slow pace the last couple weeks. That's why it's a lot harder for me to do the videos. That's why they're not coming out as fast and why there's such an extreme difference in the way I look. Again, all very unconventional about how we had to go about things and how we have to go about keeping ourselves alive, because there isn't other human beings out here living in the boat that we're living in, having to go about life in the manner in which we do without the proper tools that the rest of the world has. The rest of the world has access to the traditional medical system. The rest of the world has access to a medical emergency treatment when it becomes a medical emergency. We do not, due to these ongoing crimes and all these people and agencies involved. And then same with the police department and the other crimes that are ongoing, and all these other people and individuals that are involved in the crimes. I don't have access to use police for help or even make reports in this direction or that to get anything in order that does occur, which at the root, everything is my mother's ongoing crimes and her delusion passing around town in the false narrative for decades. It all ties in. So we don't have the proper tools to go about our lives in the manner in which the rest of the world does. The rest of the population doesn't have this problem. And so part of this unconventional situation we're in and how I've had to try to go about getting the situation under control and my mother apprehended, I have in the past, like I said, been putting this together paperwork wise and proof wise, video, picture, different items and different things have come out, and recordings and such in the past 6 to 7 years. I was too injured to do anything about it until about 3 years ago. I started taking a little bit further steps, tried to get some agencies involved, and then quickly realized numerous police departments and some direct individuals at certain places are involved in the crimes as well. So I was unable to get any help directly within any local police departments, which is then what prompted me to go a couple levels above and go to the Wayne County Sheriff's Office in Michigan, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, and the numerous FBI offices, numerous different times, the Michigan State Police as well. But at the same time, the situation is so absurd and extreme and long-term, and so many crimes have gone on and piggybacked off each other along the way, that nobody wants to believe anything that I'm saying, especially when I use the words my mother. I could be a couple sentences in and it all gets cut off right then and there because they immediately think of their own sweet, loving, cookie baking mother, and that's never been the case with me. That's not who she is. She's a fake, nice person to the rest of the world while she's pulling off all of these crimes behind the scenes. And that's why I had cut ties so many decades ago, and there has never been a relationship between us. She knows nothing about me, not a part of my life whatsoever. So these people aren't understanding that. Even when I go to state that, they can't comprehend that because they grew up normal. And this is the stuff that they make movies out of. So this is just a little absurd with the amount of people and agencies that are, this is their job to investigate what I'm reporting, and they don't even take the reports. And so since I've done that along the way over the past several years and have gotten nowhere, I am now forced to go about things in a more unconventional way, just like everything else in my life. And what I had done was I'd reached out to several churches, but at the same time, my mother has been able to manipulate numerous churches in the Downriver area, because I know she attends more than one, and I'm not exactly sure which ones those are. So what I did was I went to a church in Detroit, which I'm going to keep private at the moment. I don't know if I'll ever get to talking about the name of the church, but this is where I'm going with things currently. I did grow up at a church in Detroit, which was knocked down a few years ago. Even then, my mother had those people all manipulated as well. I do believe she still has contact with a lot of those people. I don't know where they go now, but I'm sure nobody went to the church that I specifically went to yesterday. And I did that intentionally so I'd still remain in Wayne County, and because the majority of the crimes have happened in Wayne County, Michigan, and far enough out to where I wouldn't be running into any of these people who know me, because people who meet the real me without having any background false information about me, believe me 100%, get to know the real me. There is no illusion or delusion at all when I meet people and they meet the real me without interference with this false information about me that goes around town. So that's exactly what I did, and I attended the mass and then waited to speak with the priest afterwards. And I know I stand out no matter where I go. So I knew they noticed that I had never been there before, and I explained where I'm from and where I came from and why I chose to go that far out when I did go speak with him. And I explained some of the circumstances that have been going on and what's been going on when I try to report the crimes, and I'm running out of options, and it is becoming fairly urgent for numerous reasons, and the problem needs to get situated and under some type of control, and an agency needs to step in and apprehend my mother and the top tier level of individuals, because I will never be able to build my life until this stops. It is causing many direct problems right now. There's a lot of very serious situations going on right now. And it's the end of April 2025. So now he took me very seriously. Nobody would be coming in there looking like me, sounding like me, talking like me, saying the things that I said in the manner in which I delivered the information. And people don't just show up at a church in that manner, a Catholic church, and come up with this giant story that's, you could tell. He could tell that I was drop dead serious about everything I had said, and I summed it up in less than a 5-minute conversation. He then gave me his email and said, give me all the specific details, send it all in an email, get it all together. And I did tell him I have quite a bit of physical proof as well, and what I don't, I can fill in the blanks. And I can tell you where to find some of the other stuff that I don't have. I said, but the problem is, as soon as I use the words my mother and the amount of agencies involved in the crimes and the high-level officials involved in the crimes, that's the problem I'm having. And so, he said, go ahead, forward it all to him at my earliest convenience, and he's going to direct me in the right direction. He does have some contacts in certain directions that will most likely be able to help, or at least get the right people involved to help. And that's the manner in which I had been planning on going about things. I just didn't know exactly which church I was going to go to for help. But that seemed like my next best bet. So he is willing to help. It's just going to take me some time to get everything into the email, and it's probably going to take me a couple of days to get it all in there with everything else I'm forced to deal with. So again, an unconventional manner. And on top of that, about a month ago, I did go visit my grandmother's grave, my mother's mother, and the last time I had been there, the grave was so old it was sunk into the ground you could barely find it. I had actually put it in order at the office, because this cemetery is actually tied to the group of cemeteries that my dad was still working for until his injury a couple of years ago. And I let them know who I was. They knew who my dad was, and then I told them that I wanted to visit my grandma's grave, but I couldn't find it. It was so old and sunk in the ground that they offered to lift it. And they did. So I had the grave lifted. I wasn't sure if it actually got done or not, but after I visited the church in Detroit, I went to the Mexican Town Bakery, picked up some cookies, because this is the Mexican side of my family. And I visited, I found the grave. Actually, I found it very quickly. I was able to, there's no staff there on a Sunday. I found it just based on my memories from being a kid. Found it fairly quickly, and I saw it was all fixed and raised up. So I had some cookies with me. I put a cookie on there, and she liked the color purple, so I found some purple flowers that were growing around in the area, and I picked them all and I put them on her grave. And I sat there for about 45 minutes letting her know what had been going on. I'm sure she already knows all of this. And that I needed her help to help get the situation under control. And that numerous family members that had already passed are aware, and I'm aware that they were helping me. I could feel the presence with each passing, and that they all need to team up and get together. And I know she used to speak with my paternal grandmother regularly when they were both still living. And I said they kind of need to band together, help me get the situation under control. Not only is it just my mother who's doing all of this, but her sister is helping her. So my grandmother's 2 daughters are in on all of this and these decades of crimes and screaming delusions in my face and passing around false information about me when they don't have any knowledge, anything about me. The sister is going by whatever my mother's been telling her for all these decades, and she just rides with it. And numerous times I did try to reach out to her and tell her the reality of the situation, which she did not want to believe, because she's been riding on these delusions for decades as well. So here I was petitioning my maternal grandmother that she needs to get her daughter Yolanda and her daughter Julia under control, because the 2 of them have created extreme chaos and destruction in my life, extreme chaos and destruction with my daughter, who's now almost 20, and my cousin Rita is involved in the mix as well, screaming these delusions at me, passing delusions around, acting like I'm some dumb piece of shit, like I'm just some mental disordered idiot who never went to college or something. The reality is I'm actually like a century, 50 to 100 years mentally beyond where that girl is at in life. And then asset wise as well, because I'm 100% self-made, self-built, been building from a very young age, and been wiped out 3 times, 4 if you count the Chapter 13 bankruptcy, and started over from nothing. And here she was building all along. I'm still ahead of her. And here she's talking all this shit to me, disrespecting me. Showed up in the emergency room. Yolanda and Rita both showed up in the emergency room when my dad had the emergency surgery, screaming my mother's delusions at me, started a whole fight with my older kids, created a problem. And then they staged it as a mental breakdown. Then Yolanda showed up the next day when I was feeding my dad his first meal, again, screaming delusions at me. Numerous things have occurred. There's other things running in the background that I'm completely unaware of, but I'm sure my grandmother is aware of this, because the deceased individuals tend to pick up on these things. They can see everything. They know who needs help, who they need to be watching over. And ever since my injury occurred, I stayed so close to death, walking such a fine line between life and death, that I was very close to the spirit realm. And I received the messages so clearly from the other side that I was aware I had a very large spirit team backing me. And with the passing of each family member and close friend along the way, my team got stronger and stronger, and I felt a stronger presence as time was going on after I had become injured. So another thing is, I used to dream about my maternal grandmother. We had never met. She passed years before I was born, but she was in my dreams as a child growing up and even into my 20s. And the last dream I had of her, it was both of my grandmothers. We were all sitting at a table talking to each other. And then after I became injured because of the extreme brain injuries and the extreme physical pain and distress I was in for so long, years on end, I actually didn't dream at all for about 5 years. So I'm just now starting to dream again the last couple years. But prior to that, I did not have any dreams after the initial extreme injury at the beginning of 2018. So I've not had any dreams about her recently, but I do remember being able to communicate with her in dreams growing up. So we've never physically met, and but I do know she is there. She was listening, and due to my injury, and I was already spiritually gifted as a child, I was born that way, those gifts became heightened after my injury. Just like all of my other senses became hypersensitive, so did my spiritual gifts. They became heightened 100 to 1,000 times more just like the sensitivities to everything else that I have, 100 to 1,000 times more. So while I was sitting there in the cemetery talking to her for 45 minutes, explaining everything and the help that I need, because I'm out of options and I need her to get her children under control, and they need to pay the price for what they've done to me. They both need to be apprehended, all three of them actually, because I'm pretty sure there's some legal documents and legal matters involved in this mix as well. We'll get there once things start to become a little more uncovered, but there's definitely some crimes as well. So me telling her all of this while I'm talking about this or that, sitting in the silence of the cemetery, because mind you, I've not sat in a cemetery since for that long of a period of a time since my injury. I've been living in nothing but chaos, extreme physical distress, or on the run for my life, or it would have never been able to be incorporated into my life at any point since my injury. So this is the first time I'm sitting in a cemetery in a dead silence, without being rushed around or having distractions or disruptions. And I was receiving the messages loud and clear from her while I was talking to her about this or that. So she was there. Her presence was there. She was aware that I was there. She was aware what I was there for. And to me, it's normal because my dad worked in the cemetery industry, me growing up in the cemetery industry. And if I had a day off school or something, I would just go to work with him because the people are deceased. They don't really care that there's this little kid running around. And it wasn't really a big deal to me. So I'd always grown up in different cemeteries going to work with my dad. And I never had that strong of a presence and a feeling all those years prior to my injury, because I was there regularly, wandering through the cemeteries regularly over the course of my life. But since my injury and I sat there for that long, I could sense the heavy spiritual presence and the help that I was asking for, and the messages were they were being confirmed basically by any car that drove by, or because there's a street not too far away, music would play, or a car would drive by here or there. So the messages and what I was talking about would be confirmed through those actions while I was sitting there talking. And not only that, but I could feel the presence was so strong within my own body that I was getting direct answers as well. So again, all unconventional methods of having to go about things. Same with how I even got to live. I had a whole spirit team keeping me alive and holding me up and getting me through each day and what I was trying to attempt to do to even get the money to keep us alive, when at no time should I have ever been standing or even trying to drive anywhere or work at all, which I was barely able to do. It's just because I'm self-employed I was able to pull this off. And it was an illusion because the injury is internal and no one's aware there's anything wrong. So magically, my spirit team pulled all of that off along the way. And then COVID hit, and that's where I was able to recover for that solid year and a half and get the full COVID pay and get to where, not really where I am today, because I'm a little bit behind where I was shortly after COVID, because I've had so many re-injuries that I'm in a different place. I'm a little bit behind where I was then. But all unconventional. Everything I've had to go through, people from the other side, they do see that stuff. And then with what I've talked about my paternal grandmother and my mother participating in contributing to my paternal grandmother's death back in 1999, I released that video as well. I believe it's labeled "My Munchausen Mother Contributed to My Grandmother's Death." So if you watch all the way to the end, it talks about the signs I received immediately. It's toward the end of the video. And how we were communicating directly when I was still very close to death myself. So since I walk such a fine line between life and death still currently, it was even more extreme for all those years prior. I do receive the messages quite clearly. And, I told her what she had done to my other grandmother. And since they were, they weren't enemies or anything, I'm not sure if they were friends, but I knew that they communicated regularly. And in that last dream I had, they were there with me together. So I do believe, she heard the message loud and clear. I did receive other messages this morning that my messages were heard loud and clear as well. and that they all need to group together, all of the individuals on the other side who see what has gone on and who are unrested, and their souls are unrested due to what has happened to me on all these different levels, and all of the attempted murders on my life, my dad's life, what has happened to my paternal grandmother, what happened in her passing, all of these situations, what has gone on, the manipulation of my children, all the lies and delusions being passed by me. The message was loud and clear. They got the message loud and clear. Again, all unconventional. This is not how normal people go about asking for help. But when you can't get help from any large agency or police department because they're involved in the crimes, and you can't get help at a hospital and this or that, this is how I managed to make it through. This whole team of spirit guides and ancestors and angels along the way, here they were holding me up, getting me through each step, guiding me through this this sign or that sign. I receive messages all day long, over 100 a day still to this day. But yeah, if you watch that other video on my paternal grandmother, toward the end there, those messages came loud and clear within a minute, literally like minutes of the first sign, me asking for the first sign, and less than a minute after I asked for the second sign. All very rare, extreme circumstances. So yes, this is all very unconventional. This is not how normal people go about things, but I've been forced to resort to unconventional methods in order to try to help get the situation under control. Because until arrests are made, I'm still not going to be able to pick up the pieces of my life, and the destruction is going to continue on. And I'm still banned from my dad, all on delusions and crimes. So that needs to get situated as well. She belongs in prison for the rest of her life. Her mother knows that. So I went directly to their mother to get them under control, the two of them together, because my mother's sister is involved as well, and her daughter. So I went directly to my grandmother and said, these people are causing me extreme distress, extreme problems. It's been going on for quite some time. It got even worse after my injury, and this is what they did to me during my injury and what has come out of it. And this needs to be put under some type of control. You need to get your daughters under control, and your granddaughter, and anybody else who's involved that I may not know about. So that's how I went about things. I will get more back on the result of talking with the priest and seeing in what manner he can help me get things started in this direction or that. He said he has numerous contacts that may be able to help me. So that is a good sign. At least he took me seriously. But that was how my Sunday went. And that's how I had to go about things, because I'm out of options. And, again, all unconventional. But maybe not unheard of. If you exhausted every option that regular people living on the 3D earth would normally go about things, where would you go next? I mean, people go to cemeteries and talk to their deceased loved ones all the time. So, yeah, that's how I went about things. There is going to be some further steps taken this week. It's just I'm having a little bit of a hard time filming the videos due to me starting treatment again, everything getting knocked loose, me being homebound for a few months, taking in all these particles, and I was in a pretty extreme state of suffering, just slowly slipping away until I got my home chamber up and running. Now we're starting to move forward, but it's going to take some time to get things flowing and get it to a good flow where I'm okay-ish, as long as we continue to treat every day. That's the main key. So hopefully I can get some more of the videos out a little bit quicker now that I'm treating more regularly. However, I remain chronically sick, permanently injured with 5 brain injuries. So it's not going to go away. It's just things have to be flowing. The initial injury is still being treated along with anything that's being taken in. What's being taken in has to continue to be removed. So as long as I can keep it all flowing, keep the concentrator going, either continue to rent it or buy a whole replacement. There's other factors involved, but I do have a lot on my plate, and I am taking additional steps this week in numerous directions, and I have numerous other problems as well due to the fallout of all of this, and with each one of my children individually, all separate issues, but all due to the fallout of my injury and it being left untreated and the crimes running in the background. So yeah, it's a lot on my plate, and I don't feel good, but I am attempting to get as much of it done as I can, because everything truly is on a time limit. There is more to all of this, and it is truly on a time limit. So I am trying to address each situation as quick as possible. Really just trying to take the most urgent. But first and foremost, I have to get the symptoms that I wake up with every day under some type of control, and sometimes that does not happen. And until I get enough flow going with the treatment and it's more regulated, I can't expect to tell somebody, oh yes, I can be here on this date at this day and time, or I just kind of have to go with the flow. And if I don't ever get some type of regulation going for that day, then I can't do anything, or I don't leave, or I try to do what I can from home. But I'm just now starting to be able to go back out into the world from the third gas spill caused by Ford Motor Company here in Flat Rock, because they did cover all of that up and did not make it public. However, I did catch them and I released those videos as well. So that's a result of the ongoing crimes from the initial spill in 2021 and what I'm forced to deal with due to that. It's caused another hiccup along the way. These are all very serious crimes and all these individuals are involved. So hopefully the flow is able to be maintained and I'm able to continue forward and continue filming the videos at a more rapid rate than what I've been this past week or two. I do have videos filmed in advance. However, the information has to be released in a certain order as well. So hopefully that continues on. I'm able to get some of these things more situated, and then I'll be back with another one to give everyone an update. Thanks. Bye.